Our friend in the house, it is the president and CEO, of the Mississippi Economic Council, Scott Waller. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Listen, this kind of popped up here, and I thank you for coming in. The MEC's stance on the OSHA requirements, and the governor spoke a little bit earlier about OSHA and all of that, but what is going on with this?
Well, it's interesting how quickly things have moved, and we have been following this since September when it first was first announced that they were going to do this. We were waiting on OSHA to issue their emergency temporary standards, which they had not done until last week. I've been having conversations. I mean, right off the bat, reached out to the governor's office, reached out to the attorney general's office to say, hey, what's the plan? And basically, until the standards were released, it was they needed that in order to be able to file a suit. And they moved quickly. I mean, the standards were released on Thursday. The suit was filed on Friday, and it was stayed in the federal court on Saturday. That's a pretty quick, pretty fast way of doing things. But the thing is, and I think a lot of people have said this. I mean, I think the governor even alluded to it a few minutes ago. Is that the vaccine? We have promoted that because the science, the data is there that shows that the vaccine protects you. Even if you get COVID after getting the vaccine, the likelihood of being very, very sick is very small. But to mandate it is not the way it needs to be done. It needs to be a choice of the individual. It needs to be a choice of the business. If they want to make the decision that they want all their employees to do it, it needs to be that choice. It doesn't need to be something that is basically being told, here's how you're going to do it. And what makes this the most interesting thing, this is the most broad-reaching standard that OSHA has ever issued. And some of the things in it have people questioning, where did they come up with the 100 number? Because if you look at other standards, it's either the 500 number, which is the designation for small businesses. There's some other numbers in it. But the 100 has never been used before. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and it affects every single business, which has never been done before either. So this is what makes this one really, we all are scratching our head going, okay, how far-reaching can this really be?
Could they have gotten that 100 from the same store that they got the $600 IRS? That possible?
I don't know. It's interesting to me. Look, this has been a tough 18 months. There's no question about it. And I think there's been some things that have happened that have really helped businesses. I mean, without question, without the payroll protection plan, a lot of businesses would have really struggled. We understand that. There are certain things that they have to have. But on this one, our biggest concern from our members are if I have to force my employees to take this and they're adamantly opposed, then they're not going to, and meaning they will no longer be working. And even though there is an option for testing and all that becomes very cumbersome on the employer to try to make sure it's being done right. It falls on the responsibility of the employee. And we're in a situation right now where we don't have the workforce to meet the needs that are out there. I mean, I was reading a story in the Wall Street Journal today about how, right now we're in that situation where there's so many more jobs than there are people willing to work. Then we don't need to do anything that's going to discourage somebody from going to work every day.
This is it would have been crippling the entire country at a time when we're already down on our knees, to be honest with you. But And isn't this also, and Scott Waller is my guest, Scott, the whole narrative, the whole discussion, the whole issue of mandates is a fluid discussion from 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months from when the vaccine was finally distributed to where it is now, because it's as different a dissertation as there are numbers of people now who have the immunity from not only the vaccine but from maybe natural immunity. So in other words, the importance of a mandate has changed from where it began in March of 2020. Because realistically, the person at that factory that's got 500, 600 people, whatever it happens to be, you have a large majority of those people now, or even a slight majority for that matter, who have the vaccine or either had COVID. So, and they're protected for the most part. So, I mean, the whole question itself is not the same questions we had early on. This is the worst time for the government to say, after all of this, after all of the vaccinations, after all of the natural immunity, we're going to put on a mandate. It's crazy. It's not logical.
Well, it comes back to kind of what you're saying, the timing of everything. I mean, granted, the Delta variant spike was very difficult on a lot of people, but they had watched that in other places and saw that was going to be a spike that went up quickly and then came back down fairly quickly, and that's exactly what happened here. Yep. So, and there's probably going to be some other things that come along. I don't think COVID is going to ever leave us, just like the flu is never going to leave us. But to do it the way it's been done, and I was listening to the governor coming in, and I hadn't thought about it from this perspective, but he's exactly right. This was issued this order was issued the 1st of September, and it took them till November to actually get the standard in place. Yep. I mean, and then, as he said, they backed up the date of it. So if it's why we just keep backing things up, then to your point about with everything that's going on, how big a deal is this really? So I will come back to what I said from the very beginning. We have been very encouraging toward getting vaccinated. We put out as much information from our organizational perspective of what's out there going on with vaccines, how to go about doing it. But to mandate it is really where the problem lies.
I also talking about the different degrees of this, because it's a changing answers and questions and everything else to this is even the businesses. There are some businesses that, as far as an absolute mandate, it's ridiculous to do that. But that said, on the other side, and I take, for instance, hospice, nursing homes, and there might be some other places where a vaccine is absolutely, positively should be a requirement to work there. But that number of those people are going down as we slowly but surely kind of tackle the situation. But that should be up to the private entity, entity itself, and not to the government. It's
a personal decision on the vaccine. It's a business decision for the business perspective to make a decision of whether they want to do it or not do it. And those decisions are made by people who are not being controlled by the government. So that's, again, it's the mandate problem that creates the issue for all of us.
And then with that comes the consequences of, and there are options out there. The consequences are you either take the vaccine, you don't, and if you don't, then you may have to find another job. You may have to go, do something else, or your team loses because you didn't play for the Green Bay Packers this week.
Yeah, I mean, those
are the consequences, but at least it's not the government mandate.
There's so many things that are problematic, but by the same token, what we're trying to do for our members and for anyone who wants to, we're trying to. If you would go to our website right now, MEC.ms, it's the lead story on our website. You click on it. There's probably 4 or 5 additional resources down at the bottom. We're going to stay on top of what's happening and try to keep our members as up to date as possible throughout this process. I know, like I said, for a suit to be filed on Friday, for a stay to be issued on Saturday is really a quick turnaround time. So we'll be paying very close attention as we go forward as to keep our members up to date on what they need to be doing in order to, because if OSHA has issued this, you're going to have to find a way to work around it. But hopefully over time, this will be something that is as the title says, emergency temporary standard. That this will be a temporary.
January, is it January 6th?
January 4th, I believe.
January 4th. We have 65,899 jobs listed with a Mississippi Employment Security, and normally we understand it's probably half of them that businesses have actually called the Mississippi Employment Security Commission to go through them looking for people. That's just a few. 65,899. If this thing went through, that's probably going to double.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are many. Again, as I said, many of our members are very concerned about the loss of qualified employees.
Always good seeing you, sir.